Now this will tell us. And that's pretty conclusive. Still going. Close. I think he got it down.
How strong is he?
Welcome back once again, everyone. Very keen to have you back for another big week of the Pick and Go podcast. And it's a very special edition of the podcast because Summer Karevi was not the only person making a barnstorming return to the action over the last week. Very pleased to welcome back Stephen Donald to the fray. Steve, how you been?
Yeah, good. I don't know if I'm going to give you a Karevi type performance, but yeah, great to be back. I tell you that. I love this podcast.
No, pleased to have you back too. If anyone can be offside from a ruck, I'm sure you can achieve that too. So good to have you in the fray. And as always, the Mayor of Hataitai, Paul Moati. Paul, how are you?
Yeah, very good, thanks. Don't worry, if Beaver doesn't put in a big performance today, a stray boot to the face will sort that out. No worries at all. And I'll give you the tip. I'll get off at the judiciary as well.
Yeah, I feel like you must have the judiciary on speed dial yourself. But man who certainly doesn't have the judiciary on speed dial, welcome back, Richard Laddie. Richard, how have you been, mate?
Yeah, good, thank you, Patrick. Just keeping it clean over here. Happy to be back. Talk some code with a couple of fellow code heads here.
Yeah, no, very excited. Certainly no shortage of talking points to get stuck into from the action in Perth on Sunday afternoon. I was hoping we could avoid any mention of referees and judiciaries and things for at least a little bit and focus on the good parts of the performance. So I think
No.
You got something you want to get off your chest there, Paul?
First of all, I really enjoyed the fact that we had afternoon footy. How good was it to see the All Blacks and the Wallabies playing under sort of just the bright sunshine, bit of a crowd there as well. I just thought it was a great sort of spectacle, just a nice. It was sort of like I remember it when I was growing up. That's when Test match rugby was played in the middle of the afternoon. And club footy used to be played earlier in the day, or it was put off for a week sort of thing. So, no, I really enjoyed it, and I wouldn't mind a wee bit more, especially if it's the middle of the afternoon in Perth, which is a great time for us because it's around 6 o'clock or so our time. Yeah, it was a great sight.
Yeah, no, it was. Then Optus Stadium always seems to put on a show as well. It seems like a great venue they've got it over there in WA. I also enjoyed beforehand they had the flashback to the 96 Test at Athletic Park, which maybe not quite the same weather conditions as that we saw on Sunday afternoon, but afternoon footy in one way, shape or form certainly got me longing for the old days of the Athletic Park. But also keen
that was the first sports betting event. Was that the one where Michael Jones scored the first try?
Yeah, I think Pine Tree got the first few bets on. He had, was it Robin Brooke and Josh Cronfeld, first try scorer and All Blacks 13 plus or something, the first ever sports bets place of the TAB. But I'm trying to keep the things a little bit more current. We'll work it back to Perth.
Nothing wrong with reminiscing, Patrick.
Yeah, check our other podcast feed for the historic rugby tales. It seems like the second week in a row we've managed to go off on a massive tangent. But Steve, I'll throw it to you. One thing I did want to ask, as a man who's played the most high-level footy out of any of us by quite some distance, if you were taking a high ball like Geordie was in that game there and tried to kick a guy in the face like he did, how many times out of 100 do you reckon you could actually pull it off?
Yeah. Look, I'm athletically not quite as gifted as Geordie, so I probably wouldn't have got as high. So I'd have probably been kicking Koroibete somewhere else, but it wouldn't have been as high as the head. But I mean, it's been talked to death this week, the whole thing. But it is very much how you are coached to take a high ball. And I think we were probably part of a series against South Africa in 2008 or 2009 where they were just raining bombs on us. And we actually got a fair bit of coaching halfway through that series by Mick Byrne, who was the kicking coach and the Aussie rules expert amongst us. And that was all we were trained to do. Just get up, get your knee out and push off with your leg. And I guess the idea of pushing off is when you're actually in a contest with somebody. But the fact that Geordie actually wasn't up with anyone, obviously it accentuated how bad the kickoff went. But, I mean, he's got off, and that's great. But, it had the potential to derail things a bit there.
Yeah, it was certainly a relief. It was the 20-minute red card instead of a 60-minute red card, because you're certainly getting flashbacks to 2019 pretty quickly. Although I think that is about the most shocked of a reaction as I've seen to someone getting a red card in any sort of football in quite some time. Yeah, but I was pretty
Do we
disappointed.
like that? The 20-minute. Oh, I thought it was good.
Yeah, I almost think there's room for both, right? Like,
Yeah.
because there was clearly no intent there, call that an orange card or something. But, I don't think you deserve to lose a guy for 60 minutes and be playing with 14 for the rest of the game. But, I think there is also, like, if you get a guy standing on a guy's head in a ruck or just throwing a haymaker, you probably shouldn't be getting a guy back 20 minutes later. So maybe there is room
You should
for both.
be down to 14 for the rest of the game.
Yeah. Well, the fact is, you can get sent off for anything these days. Like, if you and I'm saying that, I know flippantly, but if you get your tackle height just wrong and they slow it down enough, and you're a big man who can put force into a shoulder, and the shoulder hits someone's chin or neck or head, the referees have to send you off. So, as you said, there's a big difference there, Patrick, between kicking someone in the face deliberately and punching someone in the face deliberately, as opposed to what Geordie did or as that sort of tackle scenario. So I think there is actually room for, you're gone and your team's down for 20 minutes, or you're gone and you're not replacing them. I think there is actually room, but you'll have to come up with another coloured card, won't you? So
no, I think we've got enough problems sort of marshalling all the laws we've got at the moment.
No
need to. I know.
We're trying to make the game simpler.
The NRL bunker's got a bit of spare time on their hands now. It's only 4 games a week over there. Maybe they can lend a few spare hands and get policing things over in Queensland. But yeah,
I think that's a good idea. If you want to trial any sort of rule changes, put them through the NRL bunker first, and if they don't stuff them up, that the new rule is set in stone. It's fantastic.
Well, Sansa seems to love using, or stealing rules from the NRL, like goal line dropouts and 50-20s and all sorts of nonsense. So maybe they will, go with that. But it's more, I think, focusing on some of the positives from the performance on Sunday afternoon, which there were plenty. One man I know you were super impressed with, Richard, was Akira Ioane, who had an absolutely barnstorming showing out as a sort of blindside flanker / outside centre for a lot of the game. Where I think I was listening back to the last podcast you joined us for, Steve, and where sort of the 6/8 jersey was one of the biggest talking points around the whole All Black season. Richard, do you think Akira has probably nailed that down for the foreseeable future now after that performance on Sunday?
Oh, you'd have to say, at least for now, that was just, he was on another level, and it was just, he was everywhere. He was putting big hits in, the pace of him, the strength with him, ball in hand. He was really playing that sort of ball running, big, number 6. So, obviously, it'd be silly not to at least start him for the next couple of games. And I don't know whether he'll be playing like that every game, but he's definitely got one hand on that jersey for now, at least, I'd say.
Yeah,
other wasn't too bad as well.
No, it goes to show what a difference chucking him back on the wing makes. He was that chase down tackle. Was it on Callaway late on to keep the
Banks, I think, maybe.
Yeah.
Banksy,
It was absolutely rapid there. But Steve, keen to hear your thoughts. Though I imagine the All Blacks have probably got at least sort of one eye towards those 2 clashes with the Springboks looming in a fortnight's time. Obviously, a very different challenge forward pack wise. They're going to present. Do you think Akira is as well suited to taking on the likes of Dwayne Vermeulen and Sia Khaleesi as he is the Wallabies loose forwards?
Well, that's the thing. Akira's, taken a bit of a path to get where he is now. And, I keep saying back, because obviously I'm on an award-winning radio show too, so Akira Ioane keeps coming up. But I say, Liam Messam, Jerome Kano, both of our last sort of 6s who have played over 50 caps in that jersey, they all took forever to solidify that role, and it's a position that obviously takes age to get to where you need to. And they were both athletic sort of freaks themselves, like Akira was. So I think there's a lot of similarities there. Akira had probably a little bit more off the ball stuff that he probably needed to get sorted, the niggle stuff, learning when to do that's probably been a big thing for Akira. But no, I think
you always want to be doing that.
Well, you got to do it smartly. He's got to take a leaf out of his lock Brody Retallick on how to do it properly. But as far as Akira, he was amazing in the weekend. about South Africa, yep, South Africa's going to be a different game, but you have to pick him. I mean, he has to be 6 because he's been outstanding against Australia. And yep, it's going to be a different sort of game where he's going to prove himself to be probably a tighter, more physical. But I mean, he deserves the crack, in my opinion. He's done a great job against Australia. So, why not give him a crack against the Springboks and say, right, you might have to front physically more against these guys in the tighter stuff and see how that goes.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think he's certainly not going to shy away from the confrontation against the South Africa, though, right? Like, at least that he will. He's certainly going to be happy to get involved. And yeah, he's absolutely earned the chance in the 6 jersey for at least the next few weeks, you think, depending on rotations and whatnot. But another guy also who really stood out to me again there was another jersey we maybe weren't so sure who was going to be putting the claim towards was the 12 jersey, but David Haveli, another try, another pretty outstanding performance defensively and distribution-wise as well. I thought, do you think he's got that midfield spot locked down as well next to Anton Brown?
Yep, I think the 12 and 13 are all sorted now. Haveli, I was really impressed with his work defensively. I know he scored a try and looked good doing it, but I thought when the All Blacks didn't have the ball, he was very, very good in that defensive line. To be fair, the All Blacks as a whole were very, very good defensively. I had a look at a few of the stats, and the Australians had the edge on possession. And the Australians had the edge on territory, which sort of suggests that they didn't have too much trouble getting into the All Blacks half, but they had trouble scoring points or converting that sort of pressure into points when they were down there. And it also sort of points towards the fact that when the All Blacks got the ball, they scored quite a few long-range tries, and I think just about all of them were long-range tries. So when they got the ball, they made use of it, and they may have only been in the opposition 22 or half for just a brief moment, but they turned that moment into points. And that was the big difference between the two teams, I think. I think the All Blacks, defensively, they were very, very good, especially in their own half. And when they did get the ball, they made use of it. They had players who could create things out of nothing, and that went for the bench as well. We saw TJ come on and set up that try for Bridge.
To George Bridge was just
that was
right?
off
the left foot as well, not on balance. Yeah,
it's still got to sit up, but if you put the ball in the right spot, then you're giving your teammates a chance to pounce on opportunities. And so it was a very, very good all-round All Black performance. I think their best performance of the season so far, especially under the circumstances, having to be down a man for 20 minutes. It was, I couldn't find much of a weak spot. I think the scoreline sort of flattered the Australians slightly. They got that a try late when the game was all gone anyway. So yeah, huge big tick for the All Blacks in that performance. Yeah, I thought they were sensational.
Yeah, a late try to push the margin back into that 11 to 20 range. So not always
Indeed,
gone.
But not quite enough for the 16 and a half punters.
Yeah, no, but we did warn everyone the pick and go curse had well and truly taken care of that one.
And it did.
Well before Sunday afternoon, yeah. But we shout out a couple of sort of key performers there. Is there anyone else the panel wants to touch on who they thought stepped up on Sunday afternoon or has been big the last couple of tests? Throw it out to the floor if anyone has any names on the top of their head.
I thought Shallock had a great game. He's just doing his usual stuff, but I mean, he's just ageless, like he's just getting better and better, and he was just sort of, as we were talking about before, that he just knows when to get that little bit of physicality and a niggle in there. But yeah, I just but yeah, I just did want to shout him out because I thought he was one of my standouts as well.
Yeah, certainly you're starting to see the old Brody from 2018, 2019 get in. Might have taken a little while to get back from top league level to Rugby Championship level, but it's you're starting to see the flashes as well and a bit of the stuff around the park. Hopefully we might get to see another show and go like we saw at ANZ Stadium a couple of years back in the next month. But yeah, I think With Sam Whitelock obviously still over the side of the Tasman, it's great to see him really stepping up in that second row. And seemed like you had another name is on the tip of your tongue as well, Paul.
I was just going to mention McDermott for the
Oh, yeah.
Australians.
Oh, yeah.
He was great.
He was by far and away their best player. And if they just had another one or two who were in the same sort of frame of mind as him, that game could have been and should have been a lot closer. I thought he had a huge game, and it's something for them to work on to work around him to make sure that when he makes a break, he's got sort of options either side so that they can then translate that sort of pressure into points, which they just couldn't do at the right time in Perth last weekend. So yeah, he was right up there, but he wouldn't look out of place in All Blacks jersey, and you don't say that much about an Australian, but he was very, very good.
Yeah, no, he certainly has that little bit of X factor that I think the Wallabies certainly need. It seems like they are. I did want to touch on them though, because this obviously the third test now they've played against the All Blacks in succession, seventh in about the last 12 months, certainly not much longer than that. And they did get the one win and the one draw last week, but probably three fairly comprehensive losses they've taken so far. Steve, to your eye, are you seeing a lot that suggests they are improving? They're starting to. Dave Rennie was saying the word structures a lot on Sunday at about 8:15. Are you seeing those sort of areas? Is it a lot you're seeing from them to give you some positives?
Yeah, my respect and love for Dave Rennie was high, so I certainly would like to think they're improving for him more than anything. But there's no hiding from the fact that they have got a major issue at 10. And for as good as McDermott was, as good as Karevi was, there's nothing getting done inside them and outside them. And Renz has gone all in on Lolosea, and through necessity more than anything. But there's talk O'Connor could be back this week. If not O'Connor, then for me you have to roll the dice on Hodge. He came on for 20. And I'm not the biggest fan of Hodge anyway, but I think you look around Australian rugby, I can't see anyone that's going to win them a test match at the moment against a big team. Lolosea is not going to win you a test match against the All Blacks or South Africa. The poor fella's trying his guts out, but you can look in his eyes. You look in his eyes when the cameras flash to him at times, and he is, unfortunately, I think he probably just doesn't want to be there at the moment. Realistically,
no, he only has to worry about taking on the Springboks this week as well. So it doesn't get any easier.
That could be scary for him, because that is going to be a forward pack. He is probably going to be playing off the back foot, and if you're battling for confidence as a 10, there's nothing worse than them to be going backwards. I think Renz has to roll the dice on a Hodge, or if O'Connor's 80% fit, then O'Connor, you're getting told you're out there.
Yeah, I do like the idea of Reece Hodge. I actually touched on him before. I think it was the second Bledisloe test, because now, especially with McDermott and Karevi back either side of him, you can rely on those guys, and a Korobidi, even a Lena Katau, I think, has got a lot of promise.
Hodge is a big body, and if he attacks the line with McDermott, say off line outs, and you're bringing Karevi with you, then you don't have to do much, and then you've already achieved gain line. And so we know once you're across the gain line, then everything else flows from there. But, you look at all these intercepts that the Wallabies are throwing. It's all because they're doing stuff off stagnant ball, and you can't operate attack off stagnant ball, but they're just making silly decisions off it, So, yeah, they just need to somehow get some gain line and bringing people. And Hodge can carry himself, just one off McDermott, and just go, and then everyone else can flow off that. But he's not a natural 10, Hodge, but I think right now he's the 10 that the Wallabies have to go to if O'Connor's not right.
Yeah, no, I think it certainly seems like there is something. You just look at even the place kicking and a few of the decisions Lolosea's making. It seems like he's certainly that was it the 4-2 overlap. But when Geordie was in the bin at about the 30th minute, they had down the far end where instead of just going through the hands, he chucks the kick about 5 meters over the sideline. Yeah, no,
he got a few glares from the teammates there too, which is never a good sign.
Yeah, and because he's still so young, you got to think he does have promise, right? You don't want to completely ruin him like we've seen with so many prospects in the past.
Yeah, absolutely.
you ever get glares from your teammates, Beaver?
Yeah, look, occasionally, but I never had the guts to do too many of those cross kicks, to be honest. They would get the ball even if they didn't want it half the time.
Yeah, well, so that could be maybe the bonus addition of the podcast. Some of the times Beaver wound up the teammates, but probably might as well. I'm conscious we have spent 25 minutes already talking about the test, and we've got 2 more to preview this week, so I should probably move on to Sunday afternoon as the Rugby Championship heads to Seabus Super Stadium on the Gold Coast after the Warriors cleared the field so nicely for the All Blacks the last Sunday afternoon. Rusty, I can see I'm losing you, so bring it back
not
around.
Talk about that. Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah, don't worry. It's all about rugby union now. Obviously, 2 tests for Argentina to come now in the next couple of weeks before the real sort of clash everyone's eyeing up against the Springboks comes along. Do we think we'll see a pretty similar team from the All Blacks trotted out on Sunday, or is this the opportunity you'd be taking to rest a few fellas?
I reckon they might rest a few. I reckon. They've taken a pretty big squad over, and there's a few people in the wings who probably deserve a shot. Would say they shouldn't be at risk of losing this game too much, but we all know what happened last season.
Can you talk about that, please?
But yeah, there's no. I think there'll be a few changes. I mean, you keep your core of what you got there, but I'll be surprised to see that from that same sort of 15 start, and maybe some of those people come off the bench. Be interesting to see if maybe they give TJ a start, and we'll see.
Yeah, maybe the loose forward trio as well, I think, would be an interesting one. Maybe I don't know how Artie's.
How's the HIA?
Yeah. Is there anyone else you'd like to see given a run on Sunday, Paul?
Yeah, I'd like to see TJ have a start. I like the energy he brought when he came off the bench. I'd just like to see how that works the other way around with bringing Weber off the bench and starting with TJ. I guess looking at the Lucies, I mean, they played so well together in Perth. I hate to break up a combination when it's working so well like that. So I prefer that they keep the loose forward trio as it was, just to see if they can continue on against a different style of rugby, which they'll face against the Argentinians. Outside of that, I like Ioane on the wing. Boy, that's his best game in an All Black jersey, I think, that we saw last weekend. And I think the brothers sort of fed off one another, sort of like, oh, gee, he did something really good. Well, I'm going to do something really, really good. And then it just getting better and better. So, I'd like to see him keep his spot on the wing. I don't mind if they juggle things around. I think you've got to give Geordie another go, seeing as he only played for a few minutes last Sunday. Yeah, so he's still got plenty of gas in the tank. So I'd like to see Geordie at the back again. So not too many changes. I think just because a number of those combinations are still quite new for a number of players. I'd like to see Haveli stick in the 12 again. Just keep that midfield combination going, just to keep so that they can get better and better and just have a better understanding of each other's games. So not too many. I guess in the engine room, which I have no sort of knowledge about, maybe a wee bit of a change there. But yeah, outside of that, I just think keep that sort of core and see if we can continue this momentum that the All Blacks have.
I think especially with it'll be between the next 2 games, you got that 6-day turnaround Sunday to Saturday. Maybe that's the opportunity they take to give a few of the sort of top tier guys a week off before diving into 2 straight tests against the Springboks. But Steve, obviously Argentina are going to present a very different sort of test to the one we've had against the Wallabies the last 3 matches. What sort of tweaks and game plan do you think we might see from the Brains Trust as they take on the Pumas this weekend?
No, I don't think there'll be much of a change in game plan. I think how they played against Australia is how they've got to play against South Africa. I think if you go back to the last meeting, which is South Africa in the World Cup when we played them, we were getting a battering from them in the first 15, 20 minutes. And it wasn't until we were able to get a few cross kicks in, get a bit in behind them, get the ball alive, they couldn't set their defensive line. So you saw a lot of it against Australia where there was offloads from, Nepalala, one-handed offload. Man, you just don't see that. And when that sort of thing's happening, they've obviously got a clear intent in their mind that they are trying to play up-tempo and just trying to play with speed. And you could argue that you don't need to do that against Australia. You could try and bash them up front like the Springboks would. But I think there was a little bit of an eye to, A, that's how we want to play. It's an attractive brand of football. But B, when we play Argentina and South Africa, big forward packs who want to come at us defensively, we just want to keep moving them around and don't give them a chance to set. So tactically, I think they would roll out very similar that they did to Australia, to Argentina, and then have it fine-tuned by the hit South Africa. And I think you're all right. I think you would actually keep the majority of that team that you want to play against South Africa playing this week and then freshen them up next week. So, yeah, the only one I'll differ with, and call me biased, but I wouldn't mind seeing Weber have another go. First big test match, I thought he did well. Give him another one. We know you've got 70 tests from TJ. You know what you're getting from him. Let's see Weber bank another starting halfback, in the locker sort of thing. But no, I wouldn't make too many changes. And I do really like Rico on the wing. I think for a long time New Zealand Rugby went down the path of having as many fullbacks as we could, or that sort of footballer on wings. And now we've got, I know Sevu Reece and Will Jordan's technically probably a fullback as well, but having Reece and having Rico Ioane does feel like wingers, and they can do things that just are quite special. So I think it's great having Rico out there.
Yeah, the one thing I really like about Rico and Will Jordan as well, to be fair, is maybe if it does get a bit tighter against the Springboks and it's not a game decided by 20 points, it's going to come down to those little moments. They're both guys who can create something out of nothing. Like, you only need to give them a half break and they're just gone, or like they can, like we've seen Will Jordan, the guy's a tri-magnet, like balls on the ground for half a second and he's somehow come from the other side of the field and he's on top of it and running the other way. So
he's getting close to like a try every like 1.5 tries a game, isn't he? Like, it's 11 tries from 7 games or something like that. It's just
his try scoring. It's even better than what the rate he's scoring for the Crusaders, which is fairly crazy. He's 11 tries and 7 appearances, although incredible. 5 of them did come against Tonga, but they still count, right? So
I wouldn't. Patrick, it sounds better if you didn't add that.
Yeah, exactly. Edit that bit out.
But yeah, seriously, Beckham to score 2 tries on the weekend if he does start. You'd be feeling pretty good about that. Wouldn't mind seeing him get a go at fullback though at some stage. You'd have to think.
A bit of a queue there.
Yeah, that's true. No, although with Bowden, really the only, other than Damien, who's probably a bit of a hybrid, Bowden the only sort of recognised first 5 in the squad, with Richie still over in New Zealand. Maybe Damien moves into the 10 jersey for one of the next tests and then frees up 15. But yeah, like we can speculate about squads all the time. All that we'll proceed to do is make this podcast go out of date even quicker than it usually does. So might as well look at a little bit of betting, given that's, it is a TAB sponsored podcast and whatnot. We've all sort of said we think it's going to be a pretty similar team to what we saw on the weekend. Probably most of the first choice guys getting at least one more week in the starting 15. Would that make you a bit concerned if you were looking at backing the Pumas plus the 23.5 pool?
The line, if I had to have a bet, and I'm not going to have a bet on the point start, I'm probably leaning the All Blacks minus 23.5. Now, I just saw enough from them last week against the Australians, and the Argentinians are coming off, losing to the South Africans. So I saw enough from the All Blacks last weekend. I'd like to see the lineups first. But if it's a fairly similar lineup to what the All Blacks had last week, then I'm probably leaning more towards the minus 23.5 than I am to the plus 23.5. But it sort of looks like it's the right line for mine, which means I'm probably going to be taking a margin bet instead.
Yeah, we'll get to that shortly, but there are plenty of margins available. One thing I think I'm going to keep a very close eye on once the Pumas team is named is who's in that 10 jersey for them. They brought Diego Miotti into the 10 jersey for the second test against South Africa, which I thought was a pretty negative move. It sort of suggested they were maybe trying to score in threes instead of 5s and 7s, chucking Nicolas Sanchez on the bench, who I think is probably the more talented footballer. Miotti was very good for the Force. In Super Rugby Australia this season, but yeah, it was a lot of territory and goal kicking and grinding out results, which hasn't necessarily. I could see you've got some sort of reaction there, Steve. Are you a big Diego Miotti fan? Am I going down the wrong road here?
Move on. You said we've limited time.
Yeah, fair enough. But yeah, I think Nicolas Sanchez is a wonderful player, and you just got to keep him on the field. So yeah, Steve, I know last time you were on the podcast, you'd probably placed about 12 bets by this stage of the time. I don't know if you've had a chance to scroll through the odds for the All Blacks Argentina test and anything jumping out to you.
Again, I'm not. Points starts and all the rest of it usually scare me, but the only value value that I thought was a pretty good one, $1.83 for the All Blacks, minus 11.5 at half time. I liked the look of that. I thought Argentina won't be used to the speed and the tempo that the All Blacks will hit them with on the sunny Gold Coast. So that was my rationale that they're going to come out of the blocks hard and fast.
Yeah, no, I'm certainly think they'll buoy on, especially after that first meeting last year at Bankwest, where they probably sleepwalked out of the traps a little bit. They want to be sending a message and not letting that happen again. So it is the Pick and Go podcast, so we do have to have a bit of hashtag weather watch. I've just pulled up the forecast for
good weather at the Gold Coast this weekend.
Oh yeah, it's 26 with a 1% chance of precipitation at 5 o'clock on. So it'll be a flat track and the ball will be fizzing all over the place. Are you expecting the All Blacks to put on a show as well, Rissy?
Oh, I'm just very wary of what happened last year, and we've only lost to Argentina once, but that line's quite big, over three converted tries. It's just a little bit big for me. I think Argentina they did enough against South Africa. It's not like they were overly convincing, but they did enough to make me think that they might cover that 23.5. So I think that they'll keep it tight. I still think that New Zealand will win and win pretty well, but Argentina 23.5 is the way I'm looking at that. New Zealand still have those key outs, so those guys are still back in New Zealand, and Akila Ioane's probably not going to play like he did last week every week. So I'm sticking with that one as my angle for that game.
I'll wait for until we get to the end of the segment to get our official best bets. But I have just had word from a great friend of the podcast, the great Matt Fisk, who says that he thinks the Pumas do have a good chance of covering. So make of that what you will. But might need to factor that into your models as well. But I think we should probably take, before we do run out of time, take a chance to talk about what I think is the much more interesting of two tests on Sunday afternoon. Shame it's not kicking off till 10 o'clock local time, but the Springboks facing Rugby Championship opposition, Trans-Tasman opposition for the first time since the World Cup, where they're currently $1.30 favourites, 8.5 points in the point start against the Wallabies. And I don't know about you guys, but I think that 8.5 minus looks like a bit of a gift currently. Am I going crazy there?
No, I'm in the same boat. As Beaver said, there's a few key positions where the Wallabies are just short at the moment, and the Springboks, who have had that series against the Lions and then a nice little touch up against the Argentinians, they come into this probably at sort of at top sort of fitness, I guess. So the Aussies could be in for a bit of a hiding here. So I think that minus 8.5 is very, very juicy, and will be featuring in a number of my multis this weekend.
Prayers for the bookies keeping track of all your multis. Must be a hell of a task. What are your sort of thoughts on this game, Beaver? Do you think maybe the fact the Springboks haven't played a test for 3 weeks now, coming out of a quarantine, is that playing into the line? Would that maybe Aussie will hit the ground running after playing last Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Aussie. I mean, I'm going to contradict myself later when I give you my value bet of the weekend. But the thing about South Africa is they've played the Lions, where anyone that put themselves through watching those 3 games will realise that they are the slowest games the universe has ever seen, and people were kicking it the full length of the field, and that was an attacking play from 20 metres out. So you've got the fact that they played Argentina. And so for me, the only chance Australia's got is if they come out and just roll out what they did against the All Blacks and just hope for a better result. So I feel that there's a chance, like it could be 50-point victories of the box, but on the flip side is if they just get it right a little bit more, Australia, the speed of the game might just catch the box on the hop first up, but it's a big but.
Yeah, no, it's I think it is. Yeah, it's one of those games with a wide range of outcomes, right? Like, if someone told me Australia won by 10 points, I wouldn't be shocked. I could certainly see it. But at the same time, if someone said the Box beat them 42-0, I'd just carry on with my day, because that is very much on the cards on Sunday. Are you in agreement with either of those, Rissy, or you got a bit of a stronger opinion
Well, I
on
think
this one?
what you've said there is kind of hits the hammer on the nail, the nail on the head, because I could see Australia winning, or I could see it blowing out a hell of a lot. South Africa, they historically don't have a great record when playing in Australia. I think they've only won about one of the last 8 or 9, and there's been a draw in there as well. So, and I think the quarantine thing, we have to take that into account. The fact that Australia had that game against the All Blacks, that good hit out. I mean, I saw enough from Australia to think that they could push South Africa here, make it a tight game. They just need to sort out some of those attacking plays, those intercepts, and just those long range tries they are letting in. I can't really see. South Africa will play a very different game to what the All Blacks will. It'll be probably a lot more physical. So it's a hard one, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Australia sort of keep it tight at least.
I think a big plus for Australia could be is sort of talk that Cheslin Colby might not be 100%, and if anyone in that Springbok lineup was going to be suited to the dry, fast conditions on the Gold Coast, he could certainly have a field day, especially with, I'm not sure how well equipped this Australian back 3 will be to dealing with a barrage of box kicks like we saw in those Lions tests. So could if he's ruled out, that'd certainly be a big tick in the plus column for the Wallabies. But I don't know if there's is there anyone else from Australia maybe in the squad, Steve, you think they could maybe bring in, well, we'll touch on Reece Hodge, obviously, maybe in the forward pack to maybe deal with that physicality a bit more, or just keep it all playing?
They've obviously bought big, is it Rodder, back from
France.
Yeah. So maybe he gets a start. But no, I mean, they're not, it's not something they're plush for as far as big bruising physical forwards. They've got a good collection of locks there now, but no, I think they have got what they've got, and they got to try and limit the damage that South Africa's going to do to them up front, limit the box kicks and the pressure that's going to apply, and then just try and get their game happening. But getting your game happening when you're getting a box kick, tackled at the same time, slow ruck, big defensive wall coming, it is tough to get it happening. So, and I mean, that's when you talk to South Africans, that's what they are convinced that game cannot be broken down. I mean, I think it can, because we've seen the All Blacks do it on numerous occasions, but they are convinced that when they get that kicking game, slow to ruck, get the defence wall sorted, they're convinced that that's unbreakable. So it's a big test for Australia.
Yeah, it takes the right sort of X-factor players to probably pull it off. Right? Another one, I'm sort of contradicting myself by speculating on which guys are going to be chucked in starting 15s, but I think Siliasi Vunivalu's recovered from the hammy injury picked up against the Blues during Super Rugby Trans-Tasman, so he might be another guy they could look to.
I think I saw something yesterday saying he's got something else now.
Right. Never mind. Carrying on.
Apologies.
That's why we bring you on the podcast, Steve. You've got your finger on the pulse.
He wouldn't have stopped him, Pimpy, anyway.
Right. Is that how you see things going? Bit of a one-way traffic, Paul?
I think so. Yeah. I think those big South African loose forwards are going to be running at the number 10 all day. If he thought he had it tough against the All Blacks last weekend, watch out this weekend. It's going to be, they are going to target him. I'm sure they're going to target him. They'll play the kicking game, sure, but they will make sure that he knows at the end of the game that he's been in a game. So I think it's just going to knock the stuffing out of the Australians, and I think the second half, the South Africans are just going to roll right over the top of them. So that's why I'm so keen on the -8.5.
Yeah, it is one of those things, like, as well, if the South Africans do, just not that I expect them to do this, but throw a bit of caution to the wind and say, look, we can beat these guys playing football. They've got the guys, the athletes to do it, right? Like, some of those ball-playing forwards, Dwayne Vermeulen's going to be back. Then you've got Lacanio Arm and Delinda in the midfield. Willie LaRue is an absolute gun. So
it's funny their mentality in it, because like, they've got this obviously game plan that we talk about, but like, I was at that World Cup final and they did it well, but then with 25 minutes to go, you would swear they were entertainers, like Pimpy and Kobe, and then the midfield, Arm and Delande, who had done nothing all tournament apart from chase kicks, all of a sudden turned into magic attacking players. So they have got it there. And they chose a World Cup final to pull it out for 20 minutes, which was great to watch. But, they are a fascinating breed when it comes to when they choose to play with any sort of adventure.
Yeah, I don't think I've done a 180 quicker on a player than Lacanio Arm. For years, I just thought he was some sort of midfield bruiser, and then I saw him actually get to run with the ball in hand a couple of times. Jeez, this guy's magic. He's like Conrad Smith reincarnated or something. So, yeah, no, he's an absolute gun. I'd love to see them throw it around a bit at least, and maybe one of the two Wallabies tests. So,
they stick to the game plan.
Yeah.
And then I think they got the word from the coach's box. Play with a bit of freedom now, boys, and they did. And the only reason we don't see it is because they stick to the game plan 99% of the time. And as Beaver said, they think it's a winning combination. It's a winning sort of strategy, and they're going to stick with it.
Yeah, no doubt. Might as well, I think, so we've probably touched on both tests from every angle we need to, so might as well get a few official best bets out of each of you now. Start off back in the early game, New Zealand Argentina. A bit of a tricky game to bet into, obviously, with the short odds for the All Blacks being $1.06 head-to-head. But I know you can always find a bit of value somewhere, Paul. So what's your best bet for that game?
Yeah, I've gone with the winning team in margin, the 10-point winning team in margin, and I'm taking the All Blacks 21-30 at $4. I think that's exactly where this game's going to fall, in that 21-30 mark for the All Blacks. So I'm happy to take the $4 on offer there. All Blacks to win 21-30.
Very nice. How about you, Steve? What have you been punting on the last 5 or 6 minutes?
I'm going to stick with my $1.83 conservative -11.5 ABs at halftime.
Nice one. And you, Richard, what's your best for the early game?
Doesn't feel right. I'm taking the Argentina plus. It'll obviously a lot will ride on the team's name, but 23.5, a lot of points, and I think that they're probably good enough that they can and hopefully will cover it.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I'm going with another favourite of mine. If the 11-20 was my first baby on this podcast, then the half with most tries bet's certainly been the new and probably favourite second child, because I think that's cash in every All Blacks game this season from what I can recall. I've been on most of them, but you're getting $1.83 for the second half to be the half of the most tries. I know you've said, Steve, that they might come flying out of the gates, but I just think with the conditions and surf is likely to be pretty warm on the ground in Argentina, not being super match fit, having been in quarantine and played certainly a different pace of rugby against the Springboks in those two tests, they could start falling off later in the game, and the All Blacks will no doubt have plenty of guns to bring off the bench, whatever squad they do name. So could see a sort of scenario like the second half where you got TJ Perenara and Rieko Ioane just streaming into wide open spaces in the last 20 minutes and cashing in for the punters once again. And I think it was 2 tries to 5 last game, so hopefully we'll see something like that.
I can't believe I overlooked it. I got on it in Perth, so I can't believe I overlooked that. I'll be including that for my weekend.
Yeah, that'd be a nice little same game multi. I don't know if you can quite tee that up, but the minus in the first half. But yeah, have to maybe talk to the bookies about getting something loaded up. Anyway, on to the late game, 10:05, South Africa, Australia. Paul, I think I know where you're going, so I'll start with you.
-8.5.
And Richard, what's your best for this one?
Once again, doesn't feel right, but I'm looking at the history and going with the +8.5.
Box 12 and under 260.
Oh, very interesting. Yeah, I'm just going the -8.5 myself. I think, yeah, it's like we said, there's a wide range of outcomes, but there's a very nice ceiling on that -8.5 bet. I think where we see, yeah.
I was going off the bonus back from.
Right,
of course.
Yeah.
Oh, glad you mentioned it.
Glad you mentioned that because Paul, I'll throw to you here. Can you give the punters a little update on Rugby Championship bonus back?
Yeah, so we've got a rugby bonus back promotion on both of the Rugby Championship games this weekend, the All Blacks against Argentina and the Australians up against the South Africans. Just place a pre-match winning team and margin bet, and that's the winning team and margin where it's 13 and over, 12 and under. So just a pre-match winning team and margin bet, and if your team wins but you have the incorrect margin, we'll refund your bet up to $50 as a bonus bet. Just head to the Punters Lounge for all the T's and C's regarding that promotion. But I think we can sort of nail this one down. So obviously, if you think the All Blacks are going to win, and you probably think they're going to win by 13 and over, you take them 13 and over, and if by some chance the Argentinians sort of keep it a wee bit closer and the All Blacks only win by 1-12, bang, you get a bonus bet up to $50 sort of thing. So my one for that game is All Blacks 13 and over. And for the other game, it's Springboks 13 and over.
Right. Are you on both 13 pluses, Richard, or what's your?
Yeah, All Blacks 13 plus and South Africa 1-12 to 16.
All right.
Yeah.
Steve, I know you're on the 1-12. You're not going to cartage your New Zealand 1-12 to go along with that, though.
No, but I like this bonus back. It's a wonderful little addition, and I enjoy that. I enjoy playing around with that because, as you say, between that and the NRL at the moment, there are some foregone conclusions. So you can have some fun if the result's not quite as big as you think.
Yeah, I believe the Roosters were labelled an absolute certainty on the Advantage Line podcast yesterday. So
get on. Just get on. The Roosters, come on, they're playing the Titans. Fair dinkum. Jeepers creepers.
There's enough people
a mismatch.
Hey, people trying to talk the Titans up, that they're a chance.
Oh my goodness. You've been fooled by the performance they put on against the Warriors, who were more interested in fighting than playing rugby league. So Roosters.
Gary Campbell's the next Andrew Johns, though, isn't he?
Right. Hey, Roosters are getting some players back. Victor Radley's back in the pack. Oh,
yeah, no, I agree with you.
Good that we've got a little bit of rugby league tips thrown out on the podcast too. That'll keep everyone happy. But before we go, I'll just get one value bet from each of you from across either game. You can chuck in the Curry Cup if you want, but I presume it'll come from the Rugby Championship. Paul, where are you going for a bit of value?
Well, I sort of liked your one, second half most tries, but as it's only paying $1.83, I've had to look
that's
elsewhere.
Crazy value for you from some of the stuff you thrown out on the podcast this year.
Didn't I get one of that? Never mind. I'll go to the South African game, and I'll go with the winning team and margin, the 10-point winning team and margin. And I like South Africa to win by 31-40 at $14. I do think we're going to see something happen this Sunday night in Australia. I think they will really run over the top, and I feel sorry. I feel sorry for the Australians.
Oh, I take it from your very strong reaction there, Steve. That's not what you've got lined up. Did you?
Look, I thought the value bet was sort of thrown up in the air and hope for the best sort of scenario. So, and I didn't think we were chasing $14. So for $4.50, I thought Aussie 12 and under. Okay? They just come out and Reece Hodges at 10 and they're throwing it around and the South Africans can't keep up. Maybe an upset, who knows?
Yeah, and if they do win by 13 plus, which could happen, you got your bonus back insurance there. So it's all to play for. How about you, Richard? What do you got lined up for a bit of value?
The All Blacks have been slow starters this season, really, and historically they sort of start slow and they build up and they finish strong. So I'm going to go with Argentina to score the first try in their match. That's paying $3.86.
Nice. We've got all sorts of angles coming along here.
Absolutely. Right.
Yeah. One of us, surely we can find a winner. Yeah. Well, at least all our best bets, I don't think, can be losers this week. So that's something. But
We've scattered them all over the place.
So somehow they'll be winning by 23.5 or 8.5. They'll find a way to get half a point just to kill the Pick and Go podcast.
Yeah, no, I did just also have South Africa featuring in mine. Not quite as crazy as Paul's, but I was just going into the alternate point start market and going South Africa minus 20.5 at 4:30. Like I said, you can certainly, if someone tapped me on the shoulder and said, look, the Boks are going to win this game by 30 plus, I wouldn't be shocked at all. So I think, maybe play into a few of those little point start markets there. You can get minus 31.5 at $10 if you're as inclined as Paul are to the Boks chances. But back one or two of them there, and if it does blow out later on, you could be in for a little bit of a payday. So that's what I'll be doing. Hopefully once I got a bit of cash in my account from the All Blacks game. So I think, that's the plan. But that pretty much does us for this week of the Pick and Go podcast. Unless there's
I can't believe that we've got through a whole podcast and you haven't mentioned Manawa too.
Well, actually, saw them training yesterday. I was in Palms North at the arena, and so if you do need a rundown on all the drills and how the boys are looking ahead of the resumption, I can run you through that.
Yeah, we're out of time, aren't we? What a shame.
No, but next week we will hopefully have plenty of Bunnings NPC chat on the podcast as well. Sounds like at least 11 of the clubs will be back in action then. So tune into the Manawa 2 and Go podcast next week for all that. We'll be fired up. But unless there's anything else you guys want to touch on before we go, I think we'll let the punters get back to it.
Yeah,
we've done well.
Cool. Thanks very much for joining us, Steve. Always a pleasure to have you on. Hopefully,
no problem.
And likewise, Richard and Paul, thanks very much for lending us a bit of your time this morning.
Yeah, who knows? We might be back in the office next week. Wow. Steve might be able to go and get some takeaways next week.
Yeah, I might be able to jump in a drive-through. Who knows?
Fingers crossed for all of that. Takeaways and Bunnings NPC. It should be a great combination next Friday night for the whole country. So, let's hope that's what's saying. But until then, enjoy all the Rugby Championship action over the weekend, punters. And some combination of us will be back next week to preview the next round. So let's talk to you then. Cheers, fellas.